nature of the relationship which, on one hand, bind together these two fundamental organs of the will of Abdul-Baha and connect on the other, each of them to the author of the faith and the center of his covenant, is a task which future generation will no doubt adequately fulfill. Okay, who are these future generations? If you say they are the universal laws of justice, I already told you universal laws of justice is forbidden to interpret. Alright? Could it be normal Baha'is? No, in the Baha'i faith is forbidden, completely forbidden for any Baha'i to interpret the writing. Not allowed. We have to take the writing as they are, no interpretations. So, who is to be interpreting? Guess what? The 5 elders, the future guardians, which he just said. They are sharing with Abdul-Baha the power of interpretation, the responsibility of interpretation. Although they're ordinary people, they're not equal to Abdul-Baha, but they can do the job. So all of a sudden, we find out that not only 5 people have to come, not only they are the guardians, but they are interpreter, and there are things to interpret. According to this very clear text, we don't know what the relationship of universal laws of justice is to center of covenant with Abdul-Baha and to the author of the faith, which is Baha'u'llah. We don't know that. Okay. So, now, we'll go further. Shoghi Effendi goes further. He says, actually, there has to be a building, a physical building to be erected, which is called the center for the interpretations. Let's see if I can find that one. Right here. This is in a book that was printed in 1992. It's called Tawqi'at Mubarakeh. It's in Persian, unfortunately. It's been printed at Baha'i Verlag, okay, which contains the messages of Shoghi Effendi from 1888 to 113 years of the Baha'i calendar, okay, and in page 562. Ask any Persian Baha'is, if you like, to go to the Baha'i Reference Library.org, under the writing of Shoghi Effendi, the very first book on the top is this book. And let them go to page 562 and translate it for you, because this is its translation that I have translated it for you. He orders in this tablet there has to be 5 buildings built, which recently was done a few years ago. He says, well, the first one is the house of the seat of the universal house of justice. We know that. Then it is the Baha'i archive, which he says has been under construction, which, you know, at his time was done. Then he talks about the third one. He says, at the precinct of these 2 lofty buildings, which is Baha'i archive and the seat of universal house of justice, and these 2 mighty pillars, another building, which is the house of guardianship, within bracket, the Arabic word for it, Darul Wilayah. Dar means house, Ul means of, Wilayah means guardianship. Darul Wilayah, house of guardianship. And the center of interpretation, explanation and commentary of the holy text, in confirmation and complementation to the legislative arm, gradually shall be erected. He says the center of interpretations. He doesn't say the center of interpreters. No, the center of interpretation. Okay? But this building has been up. It's called something else right now. So what are we getting right now here? We're understanding that Shoghi Effendi did not choose a person after himself to succeed because it was not needed. Everything was done, basically, fundamentally. So he's the only infallible guardian of the cause of God. But he talks about future guardians, which we know there are 24 of them in the Some Answered Questions, which we know they're called also guardians and also elders. We found out, I just explained for you, their job is interpretations, but their station is not like Abdul Baha. What to interpret a lot of things, including what is the relationship of universal laws of justice to Abdul Baha and to Baha'u'llah. And what are they going to be in a third building that is just recently built in the universal laws of justice at the Holy Land? Now the matter is solved. Democracy is achieved, which is not just mere election. It's election of two different bodies that they interact with each other, like Republican and Democrat, like Senate and House of Commons. One is the universal laws of justice. In the name of Baha, B-A-H-A, means 9 numerically. There are 9 men there. And Baha'u'llah strictly says no woman can be there. That's Abdul Baha. Why? He says just like a sun in the middle of the sky, you will see the meaning of it later on. So, then he says there has to be in the name of Bab, B-A-B, B numerically 2, A is 1, Bab means 5. In the name of Bab, there has to be a house of guardianship. It's called Darul Velayah, which 5 women have to be elected in it. Election. Their job is interpretation, like Senate. So, what does that mean? Universal Laws of Justice tomorrow wants to elect, make a new rule whether smoking is forbidden or not. Well, the Baha'is have been told by Shoghi Effendi to watch for that the Universal Laws of Justice does not enact something against the faith. So it creates an anarchy because a lot of people say, hey, the decision of Universal Laws of Justice is outside of the faith. How do we stop this anarchy? This is why the Universal Laws of Justice sends the issue to the Universal House of Guardianship. Universal House of Guardianship acts based on the principles of the Baha'i faith, which says religion has to be according to science and logic. They have all the scientists working with them. They find out whether smoking is bad for mankind, can be set aside, and all the implications of it. They full study of it. So they bring their authenticated interpretations, because that's their job. This is the center. To the Universal Laws of Justice. Based on that interpretation, Universal Laws of Justice makes it a law. It says, forbidden now, or not. On the other hand, if Universal Laws of Justice enacted the law, they need Universal House of Guardianship to get approval that they are not going outside of the faith. So they need each other, like mother and father. And none of them can interfere with each other, because one is interpreting, one is legislating. So why should be there women? Because Abdul Baha says, if you look at the Baha'i emblem, there are 2 stars. And he says one of them is Adam, one of them is Eve. Adam numerically is ADM in Persian, which means 45. And Eve numerically in Persian or in Arabic is Hawa, HVA, which is 5. Okay, so Baha is 9, but 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4, 4 plus 5, 5 plus 6, 6 plus 7, 7 plus 8, 8 plus 9 becomes 45. So Baha, which is 9, if added becomes 45 Adam, equals to Adam. Bab, however, which is 5, if added becomes the number of Eve. Is a reference, indication of 2 forces. Eve, as I'm going to explain later on, is not woman, as some people they think. Is the person, first believer of the Prophet of God. It's like Bab and Baha'u'llah. It's like John the Baptist and Jesus Christ. It's like Moses and Aaron. It's like Muhammad and Ali. So there was an Adam and Eve. Okay? So, representing Adam, which is Baha, male, 9 male. Representing Eve, female force, 5 women. That's what the elder of God interpreted. It is strictly not written in the writing of Shoghi Effendi whether these numbers have to be women. This is the interpretations of the elders of God. It serves the purpose. So there's no questions, as some people think that women have to go in universal laws of justice. It's strictly forbidden. Shoghi Effendi says, Abdul Baha said that no. But the reason is that they will be in the House of Guardianship, but it has to be by elections. Elders of God are here to formulate this so the Baha'is, they can take it and elect the universal House of Guardianship. Just as like hands of the cause, they created the circumstances for elections of the Universal House of Justice. They themselves could not be the member of the Universal House of Justice. So elders are not the member of the Universal House of Guardianship. They're not. They're just facilitating it to get to that point. Now, final point. Although the member of Universal House of Justice, they legislate law which is infallible, but individually they're not called prophet of God. No. We don't call them prophet of God. Collectively, they do it. They carry the responsibility, but they're not called themselves prophet of God. So, as the member of the Universal House of Guardianship, individually they should not be called interpreters or guardians. No. Collectively, however, they can interpret, because it is said they are the center of interpretation. They can interpret the writing without being called interpreter. Just as the member of Universal House of Justice in their legislation cannot revoke and change and cancel the law of Baha'u'llah, member of the Universal House of Guardianship also, they interpret, but they cannot abrogate the interpretations of Shoghi Effendi and Abdul Baha. Within those interpretations, they continue. If somebody is fair and look for fairness, answer is very clear. So, we wrote this letter to Universal House of Justice. I wrote a letter at around 1994 to Universal House of Justice to explain the situation. Ooh, I was excommunicated. Actually, no letter was written to me. The letter was sent to some consular, and consular had somebody else. I put that letter in the Persian website, Persian section of website. Get a Persian to interpret. The question of this Mr. Consular is ridiculous questions. He tells me that if you are one of the imam, you don't need the Universal House of Justice. And are you claiming that you are inspired by God as well? The fellow, I don't know, how did he call me imam? Because we don't have the word imam in the Baha'i faith. I said, which letter are you reading to think that I said that I'm an imam? And who told you that? Being an elder or anybody, the person does not need Universal House of Justice or can get inspiration by God like Baha'u'llah. How did you come up to this conclusion? Such questions, ridiculous questions asking. Anyways, I came down. Lisa was with me. Lisa had a strange dream. She's a Ukrainian descent, Canadian born. She said, I had a dream, Abbas, that me and you have a baby in Toronto, and all the people in Canada are watching that baby and they love it. I said, Lisa, I had kids from previous marriage, I'm not going to have children. But you said Toronto, we're going to go to Toronto. I was scared of